What's up, guys? I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. This has been such an eventful week, which reflected in the current XRP price. As we can see, XRP currently sits at $1.08, and we are slightly in the red zone today. The price has been down by 4.87% over the last 24 hours. But before we get into all the juicy details of today's video, let's roll that intro. And as always, welcome back to Moneyside, your favorite crypto news channel. If you are new here, welcome to the XRP fam. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our daily crypto updates. We rev up the engines with a tweet from attorney Jeremy One that says Ripple's first request for admission to the SEC was attached to the most recent court filing, and in the SEC admits it never told anyone that XRP was a security until the lawsuit was filed. That is now an official admission to the case. At this point, I have no clue why the cases against Garlinghouse and Larson have not been dismissed with prejudice. Clearly, they had no chance of knowing that the SEC considered XRP a security or could have recklessly disregarded that. What more evidence does the judge need? Maybe she is manipulated as well. The SEC is hiding, deleting, and slowing down all evidence and postponing. So Ethereum had more time with the banker inner circle to create a competitive platform. May the truth come out about Clayton, Hinman, Jackson, and Gensler, and they get jail time. If we look at this following tweet from attorney Jeremy One, it says, well, that is officially/legally admitted. Look at that tweet. We can see an image he further shares on that tweet. If we look at that image, it says, request for admission number 99. Admit that prior to the initiation of this proceeding, in response to inquiries by third parties described in request number 99 above, the SEC has never informed a third party that it considers XRP to be a security. Answer. In addition to the foregoing objections, the Commission objects that this request is irrelevant because the Commission can prevail in this case, even if this requested fact is true. Subject to all the foregoing objections, the Commission admits that before the filing of this case, certain third parties inquired about the legal status of XRP. However, the Commission did not state a view one way or the other in response. From what I'm gathering from this, the SEC admits that they never responded to certain parties that wanted answers, whether XRP was a security or not, until they shocked everyone with an enforcement action a few days before Christmas. Did Ripple have a fair notice? No. Only clarity was how Ethereum ICO transformed into a non-security. At this point, it's actually hilarious what's happening with this whole lawsuit. Moving on to our following tweet, we have this one from James Rule XRP that says, this is it. Moment for XRP and Ripple lawsuit, legal expert says. He further shares news shared on financefeeds.com. Now, if we look at that, we see that this is it. This is what the SEC is going to prove in court. And so let's take a look at its answer under oath, said Mr. Hogan. The SEC has filed a letter in opposition to Ripple's motion to compel the agency to provide clear answers to its interrogatories. The plaintiff argued the defendants have waited until the end of fact discovery, more than 7 weeks after receiving the SEC's first interrogatory responses. To inform the SEC, they considered the responses deficient. The SEC claims it has supplemented 5 of the responses at issue, met and conferred, and asked defendants to identify what specific information they still required. Defendants refused and instead filed a motion less than 3 hours before fact discovery closed. The agency further added it has substantively answered the interrogatories at issue as required by the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and the court's recent guidance that a party need not catalog every fact or piece of evidence so long as it identifies representative samples and provides meaningful disclosure. Defendants' argument here boils down to a complaint that they do not like the answers they received to the interrogatories at issue, in large part because the SEC's and defendants' interpretation of the applicable law differs. But the SEC is not required to answer the interrogatories in a way that adopts defendants' incorrect reading of the law. The parties' dispute as to the correct application of the controlling legal standards should be resolved by Judge Torres at summary judgment. not on a motion to compel interrogatory responses, the plaintiff wrote in the letter. Ripple's interrogatories aim to identify the SEC's theory of how the Howey test applies to virtually all defendants' transactions in XRP over the last 8 years. The creator of the XRP ledger filed its motion to compel slightly after the extensively covered telephone conference, which resulted in the judge being unhappy with the SEC's arguments and ordering an in-camera review of the documents of which the SEC claims privilege. In the motion, Ripple stated evasive responses must be treated as a failure to disclose, answer, or respond, putting further pressure on the SEC, which has been quite evasive in regard to its deliberative process. The motion also shows how the plaintiff has evaded Ripple's inquiries. If we look further, we can see that the agency alleges Ripple was involved in creating a liquid market for XRP and promised to create uses for XRP. Secondly, Ripple allegedly attempted to manipulate the price of XRP, which did not have utility. So putting aside whether the SEC has proven or can prove its case with these facts, the question for this motion becomes, is that a good enough answer? Mr. Hogan asked, leaving legal expert Thien Vu Hogan to provide the answer. Not specific enough, Ms. Hogan stated. I mean, at one point in answering interrogatory number 8, the SEC provides a link to evidence, and it's just a link to Twitter in general. When I clicked on that piece of evidence, I saw a picture of my face. That's some ugly evidence. So for that reason alone, I would predict that Ripple's motion to compel better answers to interrogatories will be granted in large part. But that being said, it's probably in the SEC's best interests to amend its answers because they aren't very compelling to me and obviously not very specific. And if I was representing the SEC, I would want to amend these with an eye towards summary judgment. And I think it will be allowed to do so because discovery has not been completed yet. Next up, we have yet another tweet. It comes to us from CryptoBuddha589 that says, of all cryptos favored by the World Economic Forum, Ripple XRP has the strongest utility globally, in my humble opinion. Eco-friendly, cost-efficient, scalable, adaptable, and interoperable ODL. Awesome. Now we get another tweet, this one coming to us from EcoSecrypto that says, writing is on the wall. I wonder who will hit all-time high next. If we look at that tweet, we can see that he shares a list of a few cryptocurrencies. In that tweet, we have the XRPL, where we can see the XRP ledger is an excellent open source public blockchain that focuses on payments as a use case. XRP boasts 1,500 transactions per second, costs 0.0003 cents per transaction, and settles in 3 seconds. The following resources are available to learn more about scalability on the XRP ledger. Now we get this tweet. It's from Digital Asset Buy that says, looks like BitBoy_crypto thinks all the world is a stage. If we listen to that video that's been shared on that tweet, BitBoy says, I think you are completely wrong because I think you believe the Ripple and SEC are on separate sides. He continues to ask, who do you think Gary Gensler is? He further explains that he is as thick with the banking cartels as you can get, and the next 4 to 5 years are going to show how thick Ripple is inside the banking cartel. He explains that even the Coinbase thing is just a political theater. All these parties you think are on opposite sides are really just on the same side. This thing will break very soon as it was a part of the plan the whole time. The SEC is actually doing here is they are sending a shot across the bow, and they will not have competitors where people could just take USDC and earn 4% on that. And why is that? Because these bond yields will go down, and they don't want a way for people to make money in the markets. The nitro for XRP's bull run is if they go ahead and announce that they are going public and give us a date for that. If that happens, that's the most bullish case. The SEC lawsuit will be settled, and before the end of the run that's announced, it's going to be the nitro fuel. It could potentially push it between $20 and $30. Without that, we can also definitely hit a good $12 to $15. With that in mind, guys, time now to take a look at the charts. XRP is setting up for explosive price in the end of the year, like it has done in the past 2 Bitcoin cycles. We can see across the board how the SEC has started moving and going after other crypto projects. Ripple has been in this position since December when the SEC decided to go after them. Could they be the first to find clarity before everyone else? Or will the industry finally support it? What happens if there is clarity and when exchanges have to relist it again? I believe the price will go up either way because of how XRP is positioned in the cycle and how the market is forming with bullish structure. No moon boy mentality, guys. We might see a little dip, but I'm confident to say that $13 XRP is very possible. The chart is perfectly aligned. As always, I remind you, do your research and trade safely. Please keep in mind we're not a licensed financial advisor. All videos on this channel are intended for entertainment purposes only. Tell us what you think in the comments section below and let's have a conversation. As always, I thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like this video and please click on that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, that way you get informed whenever we post our amazing content. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.